said you empathize a little bit with the zombies that you created. So what scares you? What if the zombies don't scare you, like they scare the rest of us, what does scare you?
Well, the bomb is back.
Yeah,
Making a big resurgence. That's what has always scared me is real life. I mean, I remember John Cameron Swayze telling me personally on the evening news that the Russians had the bomb, run for the hills. And I remember people building bomb shelters and all that stuff. We used to have nightmares about the bomb. So that's always been the stuff that scared me. And growing up as a Latino in the Bronx, getting beat up by the Italian guys, that scared me. And,
Glad we're living Italians would have gone over as well.
So it's always been people.
yeah, we're pretty terrifying.
Can I ask you, I know this is talking about slow versus fast zombies. You made a lot of, I know we're going to veer a little bit off here, movies that weren't zombie movies, and they're great. And no, I love them. So I'm wondering, do you have a favorite of the non-zombie ones?
Non-zombie movies. My favorite film that I ever made is a film called Martin. And I guess after that, Night Riders, and then a little film called Bruiser that hardly anybody has ever seen.
I have.
No, those they just never hit the mark. They never, none of those ever made any substantial amounts of money. Sort of went through. Creep Show is actually the most successful film I've ever made. A lot of people think that it's got to be Dawn of the Dead, but Creep Show was actually the only film of mine that made #1 on the charts. And so it's not really the zombies.
Martin's a great film. And John Apple's is great.
Yeah, he's over there.
So I guess we kind of going to open up the floor a little bit to ask some questions, mostly regarding fast versus slow zombie comparisons, but anything within that topic? No?
Sure.
I'm sure people are excited to ask.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I know this is fast versus slow zombies, but with all the PhDs and intelligence sitting up there, I would really like to hear you guys maybe talk about the actual neurobiology of the zombie brain. If you could possibly follow that up with like what would, like, you have headshots and you talk about moving the eyes or the back of the head. That's a valid question.
Actually, it is a valid question. As a very pathetic plug, Brad and I are going to be giving a talk on 4 with an actual image of the zombie brain, what it would look like. So we'll be talking more about that later, but I think in terms of the functional utility of the zombie brain, you've got to take out the brainstem more than anything else. The cortex is pretty much useless in the zombie brain, by and large, most of it. But in terms of the biology of motion and motor control, it's more complicated than it looks. So if you wanted to cause disorders that are emblematic of the very classic Romero zombies, there are very key structures of the brain that have to be atrophied. And actually, there are a lot of real neurological disorders that will cause those types of movements, particularly in areas like the brain called the cerebellum. If you have a disorder that takes that away, you actually have the lumbering walks. You have dream movements almost to a T. If you watch Night of the Living Dead, a lot of those slow movements are attached movements. That's the main point of Steve's talk earlier.
And it's amazing that George is so instinctual.
Honorary degree.
Yeah.
I just want to break that trend. It's the late 60s. Right, if you want, Steve just wrote a book. It's called The Zombie Autopsies, which
Comes out in March. But it is exactly addressing the issues that you're talking about. Again, these are fictional creatures, so folks will have different readings of it, but I tried to think as scientifically as I could about clinically how would a zombie present. What would they look like? What would their like, and within that is what you gotta do to dispatch it on your behalf.
I have to say, like a neuroscientist, it's a really, really fun way of talking about complicated neuroscience stuff that people normally wouldn't give a damn about. And so if I teach a class, I can talk about all the details of music and systems, you're falling asleep, right? But if we talk about it in terms of, contextualize it in terms of something that people actually find interesting, like novels, then it's a much easier way to teach. Okay, you go ahead.
Okay, so off topic again, but Mr. Romero, some of these movies, actually most of the movies, are social satires or metaphors. You made a statement earlier in the panel that they're precious little in cinema today. What have you seen as of late that is in that same family of what you were trying to do?
As of late in the genre, not very much. I mean, the last film that really knocked me out, I've heard of a couple. I haven't been sort of on the circuit because of Survival of the Dead. I've had to be touring with that. I haven't, and I didn't get to see some of the new stuff at the Toronto Festival or in Europe. But I've heard about a couple of films that really sound interesting.
Even outside the genre?
Yeah, well, hard to find, you know. And also, I don't have a good memory that way. I'm not. I loved the right one. I thought that was the original version.
Yes.
That was really great. And Guillermo del Toro, I think, is the man here. He's in there, really pitching. His stuff is terrific. In education, yeah, I mean, other films like that. Single Man was a pretty interesting film. In education was a pretty interesting film. I actually liked the Hurt Locker a lot. And I don't know what happened. I was amazed that it won the Oscar. I didn't like Avatar. I didn't vote for Avatar in the Academy. I voted for Hurt Locker, and I think a lot of people felt that way. Me, in fact, it happened that Avatar just gave the Oscar to her.
No, sorry, it was either way. Go ahead.
I know in some ways the genre is kind of split, and I've always been a little bit of a purist in terms of Night of the Living Dead. Right now, there's sort of the radiation activation that you created, and the genre's kind of gone toward viral a little bit more. My wife and I actually good on that. Do you feel that in any way one over the other is more feasible, even in the long stretch, if, you know, which end has more of a slim chance of possibility than the other? I tend to believe that radiation could more likely in some way maybe activate cells all over the body versus a dead body has no circulation and the virus really couldn't do anything. So, you know, in the land of fantasy, what might be more feasible?
So these guys can speak to that. I just want to clear the one thing about the radiation, which has gone down. I mean, it's something that I just wish I could get rid of. Because when we made that film, there were actually 3 scenarios. We had to cut 6 minutes out of the film for distribution. We had to get it down to 90 minutes. And the other 2 explanations were on the radio and on the TV. We kept that one because it actually had visuals. We actually went to Washington, D.C. to shoot that little shot of the guys talking about it, so we kept it. The other 2 went away, and I didn't want there to be an explanation. I wanted it to be that people have different views about what was causing it. I've never wanted to have one. I guess I've been afraid to put one in there. You know, like me, it's enough. You know, when there's no more room in hell, it's enough of a reason.